Hi folks, I'm Kevin. This is Real World Natural Living, and today I'm getting ready to plant my seedlings here. I'm in Canada, it's March, and I'm in Zone 3, and if you're in the US, that would be Zone 4. So if you're unfamiliar with the channel, it covers a wide range of topics that deal with kind of getting back to a natural way of living, kind of exploring those ideas. So this is actually only the second year that I'm starting my seeds indoor, and I'm just trying to maximize production of food. And it does two things for me. It gives me the satisfaction of knowing where my food comes from, and also it's going to hopefully help cut down the food bill a little bit. Last year I planted all my seedlings in peat pellets here, and I actually did a video where I showed how to do that and how to set it up and everything as well. So you can find that in my garden playlist. I'll leave that up here or here somewhere, wherever it is. And then, but I ended up switching over to the solo cups, and I also did a video on that as well. So I'll either leave a link up here or down in the description. These really didn't work out for me. I didn't care for them. I actually had some pepper plants that got stunted, and my tomato plants were going to stunt as well, but I think I caught them just in time, and I don't know if I was just doing something wrong. Maybe I didn't know how to use these. I had a commenter in the video that I did said that you should add some Miracle Grow or some kind of liquid fertilizer once a week to these, which I wasn't doing. But I'd much prefer to use the solo cups and not have to transplant over, if possible, before I go out into the garden. I'm busy enough, and I just don't have the time, and it seems like a bit of a hassle, I'll say, and I had much better luck. So hopefully this year everything's going to work out with these. So hit the subscribe button to follow along to see how that does. So there's quite a few vegetables you can start early, and the reason you might want to do that is because some of them have a longer growing time. So here in Canada, we have a pretty short growing season. So things like tomatoes and peppers, they take a lot longer to grow, so it's beneficial to start them early, and then you can transplant them out when the time comes when it's warm enough for them. And also some things you can start early and you can get into the ground earlier. Maybe they don't take as long to grow, but they can take the cold, like say kale or lettuce and such. So I'll kind of show you what I've got going here myself. So one of the things you'll need to know is your last frost date. So here in Winnipeg, we're around the 21st or the 24th. So that way you can plan your seed time, planting your seeds just in time to get them into the ground after the frost, because some things just can't handle the frost. And then of course you have your lettuces and kales, so you also have to plan those for the right time as well. So here's one of the tomato plants I'm doing, and on the back of the package, which all seed packages should have, you can see it says to start indoors 6 to 8 weeks prior to the last frost date. So right now it's the end of March, so that will be perfect for the end of May or beginning of June for me to transplant these seedlings into the garden. So I actually have a sheet here from the GettyStewart.com. Now this pertains to Zone 3 here in Manitoba. So what it does is it lists the plants, when you can start planting them all, whether you can direct sow them into the ground or you can start them indoors earlier. And it gives you all the dates where you can plant them in your house and then when you can transplant them outside of the house too. So I found it really useful. I'll leave a link to that down in the description. So here I have an orange bell pepper. I also have a green pepper, and I have a banana pepper as well that I'm doing. Here I'm doing 3 types of tomatoes. I'm doing some kale, I have some lettuce, and I'm also starting my sweet basil right now as well. Also, I've got them all set up here. Here I'm doing 3 seedlings of this one, and I have the amount of cups that I'm doing. I may have to adjust how many seedlings I'm doing. I'm not sure if I'm doing enough. So I also have it arranged so that the plants that have to wait longer to be transplanted are in bigger cups as well, just to give them more root space as well. This one here is a bell pepper. That's going to be in here till June 2nd. And then I also have some lettuce here, which will probably only be in here till sometime in May. So all of these cups, I've drilled holes in the bottom, and I think you can kind of see that there. And then they're just going to sit on here, and the holes, that way they can have proper drainage, and then your roots aren't sitting and getting waterlogged as well. So these trays, you can get them on Amazon. I can leave a link in the description, or you can also go to your local hardware store maybe, or gardening center, and pick these up as well. So another thing you'll need is lights for sure. Not any kind of specialized lights necessarily. I'll cover that towards the end of the video. And then a racking system or some way to mount those lights on top. I normally have a big rack with 6 levels on it. It's got lights built in, but I started a microgreen business. That's been doing well, so that rack is unavailable. So I ended up having to build my own homemade rack just from things I could find around the house. I'm gonna be doing a video about that, so hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button, hit the subscribe button. So the soil I'm using is pretty fluffy. There's some peat and stuff in there. It's actually ProMix, the general purpose potting soil. So it is good for starting seeds. I'm gonna fill up my cup, press it down, not too tight, but tight enough. Then we're just gonna add some water to it and get all the soil soaked, but not overly waterlogged. Gonna let that sit there for a minute. So the good thing is with the drainage holes, if you put too much water in, it won't take long for it to drain out. So then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna poke my finger. I'm gonna make a little hole here. I don't know if you can see this, but I've got 2 seeds there. This is basil, and I'm gonna put 2 seeds in there. And then I'm just gonna cover it up. And then I'm gonna wait for it to sprout. Pretty basic stuff. It's not rocket science, but you know, there are some things to consider. So I'm gonna go ahead and plant the rest of my seeds, and then I'm gonna show you what it all looks like. So one thing I just wanted to say is that if you see me doing anything I shouldn't be doing, or you do things in a different way that works for you, I'd love to hear about it as well, because I'm learning, and if you leave a comment, other people can benefit from that as well. So I'm done planting, and now you can see everything's done and labeled and ready to germinate. So another important piece of housekeeping that you need to consider is that you need to get yourself a spray bottle, and while these seeds are germinating, every day you want to come once or twice a day, and you want to make sure you're spraying the soil, each one of them, and make sure that the soil is moist. You don't want it waterlogged, but you do want to keep it moist, especially while it's germinating. And then even after it's germinating, you can continue spraying while they're seedlings. So the next thing to consider is your lights. So I have these lights here, and these basically are just a 6500 Kelvin light. They're nothing special. These ones are LED, and you can get the other tube lights as well. I can't think of the name right now for some reason, but the fluorescent lights, which 6500 Kelvin is a good sunlight. So as far as I know, you don't need anything more than this. I did mine last year on these. So I did have a couple of plants that kind of got stunted, but what happened was they were downstairs. They were peppers, and it might have been too cold for them. And also I had them planted in the peat pellets, and I think I kept them in there too long. And that's why I did that video about why I'm not using peat pellets anymore and why I transplanted everything out of there. But other than that, lots of people do the 6500 Kelvin. I can actually leave a link on Amazon. I got these from Amazon, and I can leave you a link for that as well. So once these sprout, I'm going to keep the lights as low as possible so they get as much sunlight as they can. So it's gonna be pretty close. You do have to watch with some of the lights. They do create some heat. These particular ones don't, and that's why I think they're so good. And then as the seedlings grow, you lift up the lights as well. So with my homemade rack system, I'm gonna be able to lift the lights up and down as I need. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see the next video where I'm gonna talk about my light setup. So another thing I am gonna do this year is just supplement. This is actually a grow light, so I'm gonna supplement some light as well. So I'm gonna have these lights down lower, and then I'm gonna have these lights up here just to kind of put some daylight on it, and just some grow light, on it. And then these trays here, if it's not big enough to cover them all, I'll just rotate the trays so they each get some of this light as well. But that's not something you have to do, but if you want to, I'll leave a link in the description for Amazon. That's where I got this one from. I don't think they sell this exact one, but I can leave you a link for something similar. So what I've noticed with some soils, especially organic ones, when growing my microgreens, is that some of them come with gnats in them. They're infested with gnats, And it can be a really sad thing. So what these do is these will trap your gnats. First of all, they'll let you know that you have gnats, so you can kind of use it as a monitor. And then if you do have gnats, you can put more of these out. And then what happens is the gnats stick to these, and then they can't go down into the soil and lay eggs and stuff. So this has actually really saved me. I did have an infestation one time, and these things did the trick. I'll leave a link down below for these. They're affordable and super helpful. So another thing I can't forget to mention is that when your seedlings are a few weeks old, it's a good idea to have a fan blowing over top of them. And that does two things. One, it helps simulate the outdoors. When your plants are outdoors, they're subject to wind and the environment like that. So that will help strengthen up your seedlings and get them ready for transplanting. And it'll do another thing too. It'll help control any mold and stuff as well. Just having that airflow really helps. And I use that in the microgreen room all the time. So I'd like to thank Mark Robbs and Mr. Sandman on the advice they gave me on another video that I did about why I was switching from peat pellets to solo cups. So the advice was keeping your lights low enough, really low to the plants so that they don't become leggy, especially using these lights here. They don't really generate any heat, so they're perfect for that. And also Mr. Sandman for reminding me about putting a fan over everything. So I really appreciate the comments. I always appreciate comments and advice. So if you have any comments or advice, I'd love to hear it in the comments section down below. So that's it, that's the video. So if you're considering planting seedlings this year, I hope that you found this useful. I know I'm no expert, so I do encourage, leave a comment for me if you know something that I'm doing wrong or you have a better way to do it. I think it would be really cool if you could leave a comment down below so that other people who are coming along as well can learn, and we can all learn more about growing our garden, because that's a really natural thing to do. So don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support further, you can buy me a coffee down below. For the price of the coffee, it helps support the channel. There's a link down there. So I hope I haven't forgotten anything. Remember the most important thing, folks. Take care of yourself.